Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by tournamentpokeredge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome, one and all, to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am your host here in bucolic, safe, socialist New York City. Happy to be bringing you yet another episode of the world's longest running poker strategy podcast ever. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in on the Twitch stream last week, where I was not only hosting the TPE free roll, but also participating in some online tournament action. Otherwise, it was mystery bounty here and a $200 tournament there. And we had some fun, a little bit of mid-stakes online fun. We actually cashed in 3 of the 7 events that we played in, had a profitable day. That's still up on the Twitch stream. If you missed it, you want to watch and follow along. That is twitch.tv/claytoncomic. Lots and lots of good feedback from last week's episode featuring Terrence Reed. Terrence is a tailor-made guest for this particular podcast because we like to talk poker. We like to get in there and get deep into strategy and everything, but we also don't take ourselves too seriously. So it was great to have him on. You guys really seem to appreciate his outlook on the game and on life, and it seemed like people really enjoyed that episode. I'm definitely going to have him back soon. He is a poker.org personality. He's a very good player, clearly, and most importantly to me, he's like a good guy. So it's nice to see a good guy having some success in the game we all love. So today on the podcast, what I'd like to do is go over a hand from 2 weeks ago, the week before we had Terrence Reed on, and I was talking about a hand that I had played in a $215 online tournament. I want to go over this hand one more time, and this time we're going to use GTO Wizard. This is my favorite tool for improving my poker game. You can upload every hand that you've played online and let the wizard analyze them for you. There's also drills where you can look at certain spots, like maybe it's from late position facing a 3-bet. What should I do pre-flop with this hand or that hand? And then it will literally spit out problem after problem for you and help you to see where you tend to make the mistakes. And this is a great way to plug leaks in your game. You can also just plug in a single hand, as we're about to do here. So this is from a $215 online tournament. As I said, I believe registration has closed at this point. The blinds are $2,500 and $5,000 with the $600 ante per player. We've got $240,000, which is well above average. The average stack at this point in the tournament was right around 160. Now the player in second position opens for the min raise off of a stack of 125,000, so 25 big blinds there, and the action folds back to me. I'm in the big blind with the ace of spades, 5 of spades, and I decide to call. Let's see what the wizard thinks about this. Are we supposed to 3-bet? How would a perfect robot play it? Well, you guys probably know this. At this stack depth, we're just supposed to call. It's a pure call, 100% with ace-5 suited. And now with 27,000 in the middle, the flop comes ace of clubs, 10 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, and I decided to check my top pair, no kicker. Villain bets 2/3 of the pot, 18K into 27K. And I made the call. Now, checking the line here using GTO Wizard, I see that so far I have played this hand perfectly. This is a passive line, but the one that the wizard does 100% of the time. So the pre-flop call followed by the check call of this large bet sizing on the flop. So I did call, and now with 63,000 in the middle, the turn comes the 4 of diamonds, putting a second flush draw on the board, and I checked once more. This time villain bets half the pot, 31.5 into 63K, and once again I made the call. Don't tell me GTO Wizard is 100% on board with every move I make in this spot. It can't be, right? Right. Very right. But I have to say my play here, checking and calling once again on 4th Street, is GTO Wizard approved, but it's only a 30% call, and the other 70% of the time, the Wizard actually shoves with this hand. So let's talk about why that might be and what the Wizard is trying to tell us in this situation. Well, remember, guys, that 4 of diamonds brought a second flush draw, and at this point, there are any number of straight draws and flush draws and combo draws available that we are currently beating in Villain's range. So remember, he raised from early position and now has bet when checked to, both on the flop and on the turn. So some of the hands that are doing that certainly do have ace-5 beat, but there are plenty of hands that we are currently ahead of that would play this way, and they really don't want us to shove. So it feels like a really good spot for that shove, especially because we do not block those draws with ace-5 suited, at least not when we have spades or hearts. Interestingly, though, if we have the ace-5 of diamonds, which now has picked up the nut flush draw on 4th Street, that hand never shoves. It's a check and call situation there. So a lot to glean from that for sure, but importantly, I did not really consider check shoving on this turn card, and maybe that's something I can start incorporating into my game a little bit more. I don't know if I'll ever get to 70% in these situations, but I think especially given the relatively short 25 big blind stack that our opponent has, I think it does make sense to play in a more decisive and aggressive way. But I didn't. I just called, and now with 126,000 in the middle, Villain only has 70K behind. The river comes the king of spades, and I checked. He shoved, and I finally threw my hand away. I remember questioning whether if we call this turn, do we also have to call this river? So I'm dying to see what GTO Wizard thinks. And it turns out, guys, it's a virtual dead heat with the ace-5 of spades. We're supposed to call 45% of the time and fold the rest. So in this spot, I'm going to give myself a pretty good overall score. And I just want to point out real quick, last week in speaking with Terrence, we kind of discussed this idea that when you call the turn, you might feel committed, like you must call the river, especially in this spot where I'm getting a pretty good price, like 3-1 on a call. And so I think working with GTO Wizard on this hand has shown me that that sort of logic is flawed. Every single decision we make at the table should be considered an independent decision. So let's take that as the lesson of the day. Learn from GTO Wizard. And if you guys want to start using this program yourselves, I've got a great deal for you. You can get 24 hours absolutely free. And then when you're ready to buy, you will save 10% off your first purchase because you used our affiliate link, which of course is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. All right, let's look at another hand. This is from a $55 online tournament with an $80,000 guarantee. I have bought in late, so I'm just entering with 3 levels left in late registration. The blinds are 2250 and 4500, and in this tournament you start with 10,000 in chips. I've only played a couple of hands. I literally just bought in a few minutes ago. And now I'm in the big blind. The action folds to the button, who is an unknown Brazilian opponent. And the button min raises. He's got about 300K in his stack. The small blind folds, and it's on me. I've got about 98,000 in my stack. And I decide to make the call. Hero with the 10 of diamonds, 9 of clubs, and about 22 big blinds in my stack. So I call. And now with 24K in the middle, I've only got about 87K in my stack. So our SPR is under 3. And the flop comes king of clubs, 10 of spades, tray of clubs. So king, 10, tray. Hero with the 10 of diamonds, 9 of clubs. So I've got middle pair. I've got a backdoor 9 high flush draw. and I've also got a backdoor straight draw. So I check to the raiser, who bets 7,000 into 24,000, so just under 1/3 of the pot, and I decide to just flat call here. I think check raising is probably okay and gets the job done a lot, but I thought it might be good to keep his bluffs in, and my hand doesn't really want to face too much resistance if we do check raise, and I really didn't want to get shoved on because I feel like I have too much equity in this spot. So I decided to call, but I definitely see some merit to potentially check raising this small bet on the flop. Instead, I did call, and now with 39,000 in the middle, the turn is the king of hearts. So our board is now king of clubs, 10 of spades, tray of clubs, king of hearts. So obviously this is a great card. It makes it less likely that our opponent has a king, and if he doesn't have a king, it's pretty hard for him to have a pair of tens beat right now. So I checked once again, and this time the opponent decides to slow down. He checks behind, and I really don't think this is something he's ever going to do with a king or with any very, very strong hand. There are so many draws available. I can have a gut shot, I can have a flush draw, I can have an open ender. And I called him on the flop. I obviously have plenty of hands to call him with on the turn, including the hand I actually have. So if he is able to beat a pair of tens right now, I don't think he should ever be checking back. Because, as mentioned before, we have an SPR under 3 on the flop. He should really be trying to get all in against all of my hands that can call him on the flop and the turn and get paid again on the river. So when he checks it back here, I really, really like my pair of tens. And now, still with 39K in the middle, the river comes the deuce of spades for a final board of king of clubs, 10 of spades, tray of clubs, king of hearts, deuce of spades. This is an absolute brick on the end. And I really thought my opponent didn't have all that much, but I also didn't think that this would be a good card for him to bluff us with. So I felt like the only chance I had of getting any value for my pair of tens would be to bet, and bet very small, possibly to get looked up by like a tray or maybe like pocket fours. Because there are so many draws available, maybe if I go small enough, I'll get one of those curious calls, a crying call from a hand like pocket fours, pocket fives, something like that. So I went very small, just 25% of the pot. I put in 9,000 into the pot of 39,000. And to my great surprise, the opponent raised to 26,000. So almost 3 times my bet. And I was flummoxed. I was confused. I was bewitched, bothered, and bewildered. I really didn't know what to make of this raise. You just don't see like a small raise of a small bet on the river very often, especially not in $50 online tournaments. So I was scratching my head for a minute there. This is not a good card for him to bluff. Did I really induce this with my tiny sizing on the river? I don't know, but I just couldn't really put him on a hand. Nothing made any sense at all, so I made a crying call for 17,000 more, and the villain turns over the 7 of diamonds, 5 of hearts. So 7-5 offsuit. I guess his C-bet on the flop is totally fine, but I just didn't really think he needed to get that creative or that clever. He's not able to credibly represent anything on this river. He's either played a king in a very strange way or some other monster in a very strange way, or he's just trying to take advantage of the fact that I bet small and try to push me off of whatever I have. I think even in the latter case, he needs to go a little bit bigger. I mean, sure, he 3x'd my bet, but my bet was so small, it really doesn't matter that he 3x'd it. You really need to think about the size of the pot, not just the size of your opponent's bet, especially on the river when the pot is pretty well defined. But anyway, this hand worked out great for me. I beat the 7 high, and I was strong enough to call that bluff raise on the end. And that'll do it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please give us a good rating and or review wherever you may be listening to this. Happy holidays to everyone in America. Happy Thanksgiving. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her